Well, welcome to our first podcast. This is Steve Wolf and Catherine Magana. I know you were going to say your name.
Yes, I was, but you said it for me. Thank you.
With WWM Financial. And this is the first podcast we've done. And I know that the coronavirus is on everybody's mind right now. So
it is. It's such a hot topic. And obviously the markets are reacting over the last few days. And so it's definitely a great time to discuss this.
Yeah, well, down 3% yesterday. And as we are speaking, the market's down about another 3% today. And it's a funny thing how markets go down a lot faster than they go up.
Well, and what's interesting is we were surprised that we didn't see a downturn even a few weeks ago because we were kind of talking about this. And I know you were looking at some things with some accounts and making some updates to some positions.
Yeah, it's interesting because, this downturn actually makes a lot of sense to me because let's face it, if China is going to shut down their country and now there are cases in something like 37 different countries and people don't want to go out, they don't want to, go to the grocery store, they don't want to go anywhere.
Well, and it's not even in other countries, it's here. I mean, even for my husband and I, we're thinking of traveling to Paris for our anniversary, and not just because of this, but in general, we're thinking, well, it does make sense to wait a little bit of time. I was with some clients over the weekend, and same thing. They were thinking, should we postpone some travel and just kind of let this?
Well, I think you guys can still go to Paris, but Paris, California. It's only about an hour from here.
Or I think at the Adventure City in Disneyland, they have something.
There you go. It'll be a nice, and you don't have to worry about getting the virus or wearing the mask and all that type of thing. But it is spreading. I mean, maybe we should talk a little bit about what the coronavirus is, or where it started and all that. I mean, it seemed to have started in Wuhan province or Wuhan city, and I forgot the name of the province in China. And it seems to have spread fairly quickly.
No, it is scary, especially when you're seeing it go to different countries and cases coming to the U.S. And so, yes, definitely it's something to be worried about. But the reality is when you look at investing in stock markets, there are big different ways that people panic and things, people get nervous about markets. And this is definitely one of them.
Right. Well, it's funny, too, because from what I've read, coronaviruses are kind of a large family of viruses that are common in a lot of different species of animals, including things like camel and cattle and cats and bats. And apparently, they're surmising that this started with a bat and somehow got transmitted to a person, and then it started going person to person.
Or I've also heard, was it something that got created in a laboratory? And I don't know, there's a lot of myths and things we don't know, but we're not going to go there today.
Yeah, I think that's just a theory, but
yes.
But definitely animals can give it to humans, and that's what's happened. And then, I don't know how open China was to, when this started. I don't know how open they were to saying, hey, we've got this going on or not. And perhaps if they had started a little bit sooner, we might have been able to contain it a little bit better. But, once the virus is out, I don't know how you contain it. I mean, think about the flu, and this is kind of like the flu.
Well, and so this kind of got me thinking to look back on some of the different illnesses and things that surfaced over the years and how do the markets react. I was looking back at the SARS, which was in April 2003. And with that, the markets actually within 6 months, the markets were up 14.6%. And then within 12 months, the S&P 500 was up 20.8. So it's just, once again, there's a lot of different things. There's Ebola, there's measles, SARS. I mean, there's so many different epidemics that are out there.
Well, you remember when we had the Ebola crisis. Everybody, of course, freaked out. And, I could see why. They freaked out and the markets went down. But as soon as the crisis seemed to be over, markets came back up again. So this is an interesting thing because definitely will have an economic impact. Like I was saying before, if, people are going to stay home and not go anywhere and whatever, they're not going to buy things, they're not going to do the things they normally do, it will slow the economy down temporarily. But I have a feeling that once this peaks, I think that there's going to be a lot of pent-up demand.
So one of the things I also was looking at the world index and what's the impact with some of these different outbreaks. And that first month, it does seem like there is some pullback in the stock markets or global stock markets. And then after 6 months, it looks like a lot of these do recover. So once again, it's one of these things when you're in it, it's hard to see the markets go up and down, especially when we're helping people manage their money and invest. But the reality is we don't want to be making big changes changes right now, I think, when the markets are moving all over the place.
Yeah, no, and we've got a dividend income portfolio that the idea there is to grow your dividends, and we may make some minor adjustments, but the truth of it is that the dividends don't go down, even if the stock does. There's some, there's a misconception about that. A lot of people say, well, if the stock market goes down, then aren't the dividends going to go down? Yeah. Well, no, those two things are not correlated. It's possible that maybe a company here or there has really bad results and they can't pay their dividend, but it's unusual.
Well, one of the other things that you recently got out of is some of the cruise ships and stuff like that. So it sounds like, a few weeks back when you kind of saw this coming that you decided, let's just take a little bit off the table. Right.
Yeah, we took a little off the table. We had some Royal Caribbean cruise lines, and we did have Carnival at one point too. Mm-hmm. We got out of both of them, but there's others. I mean, we have Disney, and I think that the Disney related parks, especially in China. I mean, this is really, it's gone from China, it's gone to South Korea. Mm-hmm. I understand there's different places now. It's in Italy, it's in the United States. Yeah. So it will have an impact.
Yeah. Well, and then even in the United States, I think it's also getting us now to think and prepare to make sure that are we prepared for emergency or things to happen? And because I don't think nobody wants it in their backyard, but the reality is we need to make sure that we have, in case of emergencies, that we have places and set up.
Well, that's true. And here, I was just reading something, and I copied it over from the CDC, who's saying, what happens if you are sick with coronavirus? What do you do? Mm-hmm. The first thing is stay home, mm-hmm. except to get medical care. And if you do get medical care, call first. Just don't go in there. Separate yourself from other people and animals in your home. That was an interesting thing, too. Ah. So if you have a pet, you have a dog, cat, whatever, let somebody else take care of them. Although they say that it hasn't really gone from human to animal yet, but they just don't know. So I think that's just a good precaution. Wear a face mask if you have it. There's the CDC saying if you don't have it, you probably don't need to wear a face mask.
So I was recently flying. Last week I went up to Oregon, and I ended up having a face mask. And the lady next to me, we look at each other, and she says, I have a mask. I said, so do I. And so here we are, the only two in the plane with this mask on, and everyone was looking at me like I was crazy.
Were you sitting next to each other?
We were. There was nobody in between us, but we were next.
Maybe you guys are just on the same team.
I guess. And then on the way home, I was probably the only one that had a mask on. But I don't know. It's just one of those things that put me at ease.
So what kind of a mask was it? Was it one that just a plain old mask, like a surgical mask?
No, it was the I think it's the N95. So it's
the N95. What the heck is that?
I don't know. Supposedly it's supposed to help with, I don't know, protect me a little more.
It's about 20 times better than the A95 or something. But is that one that you actually you can breathe in? And
I can breathe in. It just has like I can breathe in and out with it. But I have to lift it up occasionally to let some air in.
Now, that was, what, a week ago?
Yes, last week.
Okay, and you still don't feel bad? I mean, so you don't... I just want to know because I'm very close to you, and that's the other thing. You're not supposed to be too close to people.
Yes.
Going back a little bit to what else you can do, cover your coughs and sneezes. Mm-hmm. Clean your hands often. So wash your hands... just make sure that, and don't touch your hands to your nose or to your mouth. Okay, you can still get it. Somebody sneezes on you and the droplets, get on you. But avoid sharing personal household items. We won't go into what all those are, but you kind of know what they are. Clean high-touch surfaces every day, like countertops, tabletops, doorknobs, bathroom fixtures, toilets, phones, keyboards, tablets, bedside tables. I mean, you name it. And the CDC also said clean any surfaces that may have blood, stool, or body fluids on them, and use a household cleaning spray or wipe according to the label instructions, et cetera, et cetera. So,
well, it's definitely. I mean, it's any type of virus, flu. I mean, there's a lot of viruses out there. We definitely need to make sure we take care of ourselves.
Well, so far, from what I've seen, the reports is that it's about a 2% death rate. So there are deaths to it. And the older you are, the more vulnerable you are. Mm-hmm. So, if you are 80 plus, you're probably the most vulnerable. Then under 80, under 70, under 60. By the time you get under 50, the chances are you're not going to die from it. And as it just gets less as you get younger.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it's the other side of it too.
So if I could just get younger for a while,
there
I'd be
you go.
good.
I guess the other thing we think about is also if there's medication or vaccines that are coming. I think with I don't know.
Yeah, but it takes a long time for vaccines. I mean, they're talking about having a vaccine in a few months, and that's just usually not the way the FDA works.
Yeah. But I just think in general there is, hope, I guess.
Yes, there's always hope.
Yes. So then I kind of was thinking back, not only do we have viruses, but there's always some type of major event, or we had Trump with the tariffs, or we have, different things that have happened over the years with the market. So it's, obviously this affects the stock market, but there's so many different things out there that are always making the markets move up and down. And we just, once again, it's hard to time these things.
Right.
It's like, when do you get in and when do you get out? And that's one thing that we, we're not big market timers. We definitely look at what's happening in the world. But, I think if you try and time the market, you can miss the market.
Right. And one of the things that I think is important is that if you need money over the next, 6 months or a year, don't wait for the market to crater. Okay. I mean, we're already down about 6% in the last couple of days, but if you need the money, take the money out when the market is up. Mm-hmm. Don't wait for it to come down. I think that's good advice. Take enough money that you think you'll need, maybe for a year or whatever it might be, and then you can ride this thing out and not worry.
Yeah, and that kind of ties into the financial planning and making sure, okay, what do you need, and having that money set aside.
Right.
So.
But I do think, though, that going back to the symptoms and all that, this reminds me just of influenza.
Yeah.
That it goes around, and you're there's a possibility you're going to get it. More than likely, you're going to be okay. The old, the infirm, they're the ones who certainly have to worry a little bit more. But that's really what this is. And I don't know if we're making a mountain out of a molehill. I'm not sure. Mm-hmm. We'll know that in time. Mm-hmm. But, nobody wants to get sick, and certainly nobody wants to die.
Well, yeah, and I think that ties into, obviously where we're at with the markets now. But, I think a couple of weeks ago we were expecting maybe something like this to happen, and,
right.
and it didn't.
Right.
So
yeah, we were a little bit surprised that when this thing started happening, that there wasn't more of a reaction. Mm-hmm. And I think that once it really spread, especially like into Europe and also into the Middle East, I think people started getting scared, more scared than they were before. But you know what? The market has actually been pretty high. I mean, let's face it. We've had
really good. Last year was an amazing year. I mean, definitely. We'd love to see that again. But the reality is,
markets don't grow to the moon. So this is actually kind of, in my opinion, and no pun intended, but I think it's a healthy market. Mm-hmm. Because we need a pullback. Some of these stocks are trading at really pretty elevated levels.
Well, and then the other side of it is, if you have some cash set aside that you don't need to spend, this is a great time to maybe buy into some of these dips.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, and we, in a couple of the portfolios, we have sold a few things, so we do have some cash available. Again, not so much in the dividend income, but we do have some in our growth account, and a little bit in the dividend income, and a little bit in the caveman account. So for those people who don't know what the caveman account is, it's a concentrated portfolio of stocks.
Yeah. And then in addition to...
With a very catchy name.
There you go, yes. I wonder where you got that from. So I think...
Actually, it came from Catherine. It didn't come from me.
I think having the whole women's thing that we work on, and then I think that caveman definitely suited some growth there.
That's right.
So, but the other thing is, you think about, people that are also invested in mutual funds, they are tied to stocks and bonds and all these other things. Right. So you are affected. It's just, once again, how are you invested and what's your allocation?
Yeah, that's true. And a lot of people who don't even think about it. I mean, I don't know what the percentages of people who are in 401ks and that, but I know it's a fairly large percentage, probably 50% of the people out there who work have 401k plans, maybe even more, or IRAs or whatever. So, you're definitely affected by this. But you know what? If you're in an IRA or if you're in a 401k plan where you get paid once a month or twice a month or once a week, this is a great time.
Definitely dollar cost averaging, buying in each month, buying in with the different prices, and you're right.
Right, and especially if you're younger. I mean, for those people who are under 40 or 50 and they keep putting money away, you want the market to pull back a little bit. It gives you more shares at a cheaper price, and ultimately the market will come back. I mean, this happens periodically. This is not something, in my opinion, to be afraid of, unless you need the money right now. And if you do, like I said before, take some money out. There's nothing wrong with putting some cash aside.
Well, and then also in the past, we have hurricanes or different things that come up. I mean, there's so many different things that happen in the world. I think the markets tend to react. But this is obviously a different type. A
Are
different
hurricanes contagious?
case. Yeah. No. I'm just saying in general, those are some things that have come up throughout the years.
Well, yeah. I mean, I know you've got a chart in front of you, and what that has all the different disasters that have happened over the time
Yeah. So the Brexit vote, the Paris terror attacks.
in Paris, where you're going to go.
Yes, where I was going to go. Now we'll go.
I think there's also a Paris, Illinois. I do.
Really?
Yeah. If you look around the United States, I'll bet there's probably 10 different Parises. You could do a tour of Paris throughout the United States.
There you go. So once again, there's so many different things that happen in the world that I think the market tends to react a little bit, and that goes back to when you listen to news or you turn on your computer or radio, everything. There's always stuff that's out there, and the media definitely plays into it. So I think that tends to feed into people's emotions about their money.
It always does. Yeah. I mean, the media gets on something. I'm still afraid to go into the ocean near Miami because the sharks are out there. And do you remember that year where they were showing hundreds and hundreds, maybe thousands of sharks off the shore, and you couldn't go in the water? And what happened to that?
Well, even here in San Diego, there's been instances of sharks, and I still go in the water though.
And so do I, but we're not in Florida.
That's true.
So, but the point is, though, that just the media gets a hold of a news story, and you're hearing it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week from so many different places, and it gets you more scared than you need to be. Look, there's no rush to necessarily get into the market. I think they're starting to become bargains, and they'll probably happen a little bit more before this is done. Wouldn't surprise me if total the market's down by 10 or 12 or 13%. We're already down by 6.
Yeah, and that's like it's healthy to have corrections and pullbacks in the market. It's
right. No, I don't want to make light of it. I mean, because it's a serious, it's a serious thing. Nobody wants to certainly get sick, and like I said, nobody wants to die. But you have to keep it in the proper perspective as far as the markets are concerned. And the other thing, I think, once this is done, and supposedly, now again, if you want to believe what China's saying, supposedly they're saying that it's starting to peak. So once that happens and people start going back to work, they start going back, there is a lot of pent-up demand for things. Some things you'll never make up for. I mean, if you don't get your cup of coffee, you can't get another one to make up for it. But there's a lot of other things that you could buy that you haven't been doing, or, that will...
Well, but I guess the other side of it was, what about production of things? Are we, with that slowdown, how is that really going to affect the economy, the global economy? Because I think there is a lot of production done.
Oh, there's no question about it. Yeah, like I said, so this makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, it really does. Hopefully you don't catch it, and we take proper precaution to get it. If you do, hopefully, you make it through okay, and most people will. But you're right. I mean, there's a lot of things that will slow down. So this makes sense. Yeah. It's not something to get crazy about. The market isn't toxic. This is not like the banks failing back in 2008. I mean, that was a real problem with the economy. I think this is an economic temporary problem, and I think it will go away pretty soon.
Great. Well, was there anything else you'd like to cover? Or?
No, it was good.
Great. Well,
it's a great first podcast.
Yeah, I think
it's fun talking to you.
It was reminds me we used to do a radio program together, so it's been a while. So
we did a radio program, but unfortunately the radio station went Spanish.
It did, yes.
And my Spanish isn't very good.
And neither is mine. I can get to the bathroom and add some water.
Being able to get to the bathroom is very important.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you for joining us. We look forward to doing another one.
Take care.